Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. That's enough of that. That's enough of that. Little Migos for you. Inspired the talk today. So if you don't know, it's me, the boy Coach Vic. Welcome to the Land Investing Group for Professional Millennials. As you can see, I'm a certified land investor. Today, I'm excited talking about a really cool topic. Basically, I'm going to make the land investing thing work for you. I'm going to show you what it really means with tangible amounts, more or less using my example I've used in March of 2020. I started off with very little money. In fact, I had negative money. I was lucky enough to scramble around and put something together, and I had some other ways. I had some stocks I invested in a long, long time ago. I finally cashed them out. Wasn't a lot of it, but I use that money for coaching, and I use that money to actually buy a property. So I'm kind of gonna go through a similar example, but I'm gonna show you what that can mean for you, as well as the three, or no, really more than that, a few different ways that we actually can make money in this niche, because well, it's there's more than one way to skin a cat. That's just what it comes down to. All right, so before I begin, I'm on a new setup. I like this new setup using Zoom instead of going through the Facebook Messenger, or excuse me, the Facebook platform. So if you can hear me okay, you can see me okay, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment or whatever. I don't care if it's live, I don't care if you're watching a replay. Just let me know so I can actually make sure I'm doing this right and everything sounds good. But with that said, let me jump into it. So, how do you actually utilize the power of flipping your wrist like a stir fry? What I want to show you is the different ways that we can make money here. And before I get into that, yesterday on March 2nd, 2021, I actually met Billy Jean, as in Billy Jean is marketing, and he gave me something very powerful. And it was actually pretty cool because most people they've never heard of the land investing niche, which makes it so powerful for us because that means we get to keep it all for ourselves, right? No matter how many people learn about this, not very many are like looking to actually get into it because they think it's more complicated than what it is, and it's not complicated. And like with all real estate, they also think that you need to have a ton of money and all these like lenders and investors and all this and risk. I mean, I'm going to show you an example why that's not true. Sure, you can go for bigger parts of the land and actually, go for those big paydays. Those things are totally legit, and a lot of people do that. But that's not the only way to make money here. So that's the exciting thing about it. You can make it your own, and that's how it's supposed to be done, right? All right, but the exciting thing was this. I was like, hey, Billy, man, I do this land investing thing, but I think most people think it's kind of boring. He goes, no. You know what's boring is insurance. But look at the ads from Geico. Look at the ads from Progressive. Look at the ads from Mr. Mayhem and like I think it's State Farm. Look at the State Farm ads with Chris Paul and Jake from State Farm. Those ads are far from boring, but the subject matter is boring. He goes, land is interesting. Because think of it this way: no matter how big the house, no matter how great the building or the structure, it's nothing without the land underneath it. Hell, Las Vegas wasn't Las Vegas before it was built up to be something, and it's all in the land. So what we get to do, we have the opportunity to find these places that right now seem to be middle of nowhere, no one quote unquote wants, or very few people want, and then we can use that resource and be efficient with it and make money with it. We help the person who we are buying the property from, so we're getting rid of a burden from them. We are selling it to someone who needs property, so we're fulfilling a need, and we get paid handsomely for it. And the beautiful thing is, both parties, the people we buy from and the people we sell to, they feel like they're getting a deal. That's a win-win-win in my book. So I'm glad I was able to meet Billy. He's a great dude, awesome dude, one of the best marketers out there. If you don't know Billy Jean, you need to look him up. But yeah. So, anyways, along let's get into it. I want you to imagine something. Let's say you have a big expense coming. All right. Maybe you don't have to imagine this. Maybe this is real for you. Maybe you have a wedding coming up. Maybe you have a big car payment, or you want to buy a car. Maybe you want to, I don't know, you got, college tuition or student loans or credit card debt, and you're trying to pay things down so the interest doesn't kill you. Okay. Now, with the traditional way of how we were most of us were raised to think, we have our job, hopefully, and we pay our bills, and then whatever's left over, we try to throw at the credit card bill, right? And maybe that leftover amount is $30, $50, 100, 200, whatever it is, right? But it's not a ton of money. And then looking at how much you owe, let's just say you owe 10 grand, right? You look at the amount you owe and you look at how much you're able to save every month, and you're like, damn, this is going to take forever. And you get books that are all about credit repair and how you can tackle your debt. And while everything sounds good, you're like, I don't want to be in debt forever. I don't want to be paying interest off this whole time. I'm glad I'm taking care of it now, but isn't there a better way? And yes, my friends, there is a better way. Now, you may have heard of real estate and how a lot of people are buying rental properties, or they're getting mortgages for rental properties, and they're hoping that the mortgage is covered by the rental income that that property produces. But what happens when people don't rent your property? What happens when the people who want to rent can't afford it anymore? Right? What happens if you're not in a very hot real estate market where there's not a lot of people moving to that area or looking for income or for housing? Now what? Now you're on the hook for another mortgage. So a lot of people see this and they think this and they're like, well, shit, maybe real estate's not for me. But I'm here to tell you that that student loan or those credit card debt or that wedding or whatever you want to pay for, you ain't got to worry about it, because now land investing. I'm actually going to give you an example. I'm going to share my screen, and with that, I'm going to give you. I made a little diagram to kind of demonstrate the point, and we'll refer to this diagram over and over again. But hopefully, you'll start to see the power of land investing. All right. So I made this real quick, and this is kind of like how I started with my escape velocity strategy. So first, let's just say we start with a $500 budget. So we're here. Start a $500 budget. All right. Let's make a red pen. Yeah, this is Microsoft Paint. I love Microsoft Paint. I use it for almost everything. All right. So what can you do with $500? Well, if you're smart, you can use the whole 500 to do something, but let's be smart about this. 75%, let's save that for the purchase, and about 25%, we'll use that for acquisition. What I mean by acquisition is, how we're going to contact different owners, how we're going to get them the deed there and back, and things like that, right? And then the 375 would be the asking price. Well, how do you buy a property for 375? Well, part of the escape velocity strategy is finding out deals like that. And I use 375 in particular because that's exactly how much I paid for 2 lots. So 375 per lot when I first got started again in land investing in March 2020. So these are actual numbers. These aren't made up and hypothetical best case. These are actual numbers I've personally went through. Now, to make the math easier, I said we buy the property for 375, so let's say we have very little of my 500 left, right? But we sell the property for 2,000 bucks. All right, so we had 500, now we have 2,000. That's great. But guess what? Most of us don't have $2,000 worth of debt. We have a lot more. In our example, we have 10 grand. But all right, but what do we do? Well, this is the beauty about flipping, right? So now we're going to flip the flip. So now we're going to take our original thing that we did with the $500 budget, and we're going to do it 3 times. And it works that way because now we have the 75, 25% rule. So 1,500, 53, 500, 500, 500 makes 1,500. And then we have our last 500 remaining. Now we're assuming that this original 1,500 that we started with over here was that money we were saving that we're going to throw at the wedding or the car payment or the credit card payment or whatever it is, right? We're assuming that. But, whatever. We have that 1,500. And so again, when we broke it 75, 25, 1,500 and 500 is left for whatever. So now we still have that 500 for that car payment, whatever we were going to use it for. So we can keep it for that, or we can use it to acquire more property. And let's say we do it again and we sell each of the $500 property that we purchase here, 1, 2, 3. And let's say we sell it for 2,000 each time. Now we're up to 6 grand, starting from that $500 budget. Again, these are numbers I use. So for me, if you guys didn't see my video I sent with you when you joined the group, I bought 2 lots for 375. I sold them for about 2,000 a piece. One was like 1,800. The one was roughly like 1,800 or so. I used 2,000 for this example to make the math easier. But then that same person that I bought from had a sister who also owned 4 other lots. So I bought more of the lot, more of the same for roughly the same price. And now they'll sell for roughly the same price. And that's the beauty about this industry. Once you get some test data, understanding what's going on, and like you bought a property or two, you know how much you should be spending, you know how much you can sell for. So now you can kind of play with those numbers. Maybe you get the property for less, maybe you pay a little bit more, but you have an easier transaction. But you know you're still going to be making your money on the back end. So at the end of this, in 2 rotations of this, we just made we have 6 grand now instead of the 500 we started with. Now, what if we took this whole thing here and we flipped that? So we take that 6 grand and we either buy some bigger lots or we buy more of these smaller ones that we can buy for 375, even if we have to pay a little bit more. How quickly would it take for you to get to that $10,000? Put that in the chat. And if you had that $10,000 right now because you put in a little bit of effort and you invested your money in land the way I'm showing you here, what would you use that money for? Would you use it to pay for bills? Would you use that money to pay for your wedding? Would you use that money for, shit, tell me, you tell me, I don't know, a Fabergé egg? So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm going to stop my screen. You can see the power of how quickly you can flip and stip it and flip it and flip it and turn that into something bigger. You see that, right? And it's a beautiful thing. But let me give you a little bit more detail now. I'm going to break it down even further for you because the high level overview is always fun. But we'll break it down even further. So what I want to share with you besides that is the 6 most, I guess there's 3 common ways that you make money in this industry. And then there's actually 6 total ways that I know personally. And I know there's more. There's a lot more out there. It's just what I know. And I guarantee you, if you guys give me some comments and some help, I'm sure you guys can remind me of things I'm not even thinking about, or, educate me and teach me something. So let's jump into it. The first thing we'll do before we get into the actual details is, one, understand this. The bottom line is we're taking a little bit of money and we're putting it out in the market, and it's going to return to us and bring some friends along. How's that sound? Right? You put your little $20 bill out there. It's all alone, first day of school and shit. It goes out and somebody's trying to buy property from me. Um, and you wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how well you apply the escape velocity strategy. Next thing you know, that $20 is coming back with a friend, another 20, maybe 2 other 20s with it. Oh man, it's making me salivate thinking about the possibilities. All right, so always remember that this is the goal of every investment. Sometimes that 20 may only bring another $5 with it, but hell, it ain't coming back alone, and it's more than what you started with. So never get caught up in the ROI. Just get caught up. Hey, did I progress? Did I get closer to my financial goal? Am I getting closer to that wedding amount? Am I getting closer to paying off that bills in less time? That's the only thing that matters. Number 2, as long as you're finding motivated sellers, you're going to be able to do this all day long. And motivated sellers are commonly people who live out of state, people who owe back taxes, those who have code enforcement liens, so they didn't cut their lawn or something with the county. Now they're in trouble and they have a fine to pay and they don't know they have to pay the fine or they can't afford the fine. We can take care of it. And hey, between me and you call the county, you're like, hey, I'm about to buy this property. What can we do to reduce this fee? They'll work with you. They want their money and they want the shit cleaned up. So as long as you do that, the new owner, they'll work with you. So they don't, start a little secret. All right. And the last thing to remember, all land sales, all land. Like, so I had a property in Florida where there was a big drainage ditch and it was like a big old gouge in the thing and it was unusable for pretty much anything. Sold it anyways. I bought it for 600, sold it for $800. All land sales. And it didn't take me that long. It's not like I had it for a year or two. Notice if you're having land and it takes you 6 months, 8 months to sell your property, you did something wrong and you didn't apply my strategy. Because I would imagine someone else taught you and they didn't teach you how to sell and they didn't teach you how to buy properly. So if you want to correct those mistakes, put it in the chat below. Let me know. I will personally reach out to you so I can see how I can personally help you basically apply the escape velocity strategy. And since you already know a little bit of land investing, it'll probably be faster. And no, you don't got to use no punk ass title company. They just slow you down and take all your money. Anyways, let's get into it. The first way, and my favorite way to make money in this industry, is the flip that we just talked about, right? You buy for little, you sell for more. Now, what I like to do, since I buy for so little, I can pass that savings on to the next buyer. So while most people in the industry, or maybe in some county USA, they're selling land, let's just say for 5,000 a pop, right? I have a similar parcel. I'll sell that for 4,000. Why am I undercutting them? Because number one, I got it for so cheap, it doesn't bother me. And number two, that's what guarantees a fast sale. It makes the land offer irresistible, especially when everybody around me is still selling the same property or similar properties for 5,000. It makes things so much easier. And people wonder why they can't sell, because you're overvaluing the property, right? You can't overpay for it, and you can't try to oversell it. Sure, you might find a buyer to eventually buy at that price, but guess what? It's going to take forever. Now, with these cash deals, that's you can see the strategy work out that I had outlined, right? Let me share my screen real quick again, just so you see. So you see, you start with a budget of a certain amount. You go, you have a little bit set aside for your bills and for acquisition costs and all that, so you don't go broke. And I've done that a few times. I just went through that where I put all the chips in the table. I actually been like, all right, let me buy these properties. I know I'm gonna flip them quick. Yeah, I may be able to sell them quick, but damn, that week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks it takes to get all the paperwork back from people, man, streets be starving, B. But anyway, you see how you get that 2 grand, and then you just split that money up and you just keep deploying it, and you find different areas. So now you're getting sales all the time from different people. It's a wonderful thing. So that is the first way, and my favorite method of making money. Now you can do this with bigger amounts. Like I like to use these small numbers because that's what I've done a ton of, and there's a lot more smaller plots and bigger plots in the world. Just because you'll take a big plot and you just divide it up. It's just math. But don't get it twisted. A lot of people think that, oh, okay, if I'm selling a property that's worth 30 or 50 grand, I have to sell it off in payments. And we'll talk about that structure in a moment. No, you can still find people who will pay you all up front. And they will be okay with not having a title company if you explain to them why they're a waste of time. It happens all the time. It's just if you're not used to it, don't think it's because you couldn't do it. It doesn't happen. It does happen, and it happens often. All right. Now, going back to it, the next way to do it is I kind of what I've alluded to is buying the property for less, selling it for a lot, and then having people pay it in payments. Now, as you buy properties that are worth more and more, they're worth more and more, the buyer pool of people who can pay in cash will get smaller. Again, they're still there, and you can still, if you have your marketing directed towards them, you will attract them, and they will gladly do business with you, especially since you know you're going to give them a deal, and they know you're giving them a deal. Just because it's a bigger amount, don't mean you can't give people deals. But let's say you don't want to give a deal, or you want passive income because you don't want to hustle so much for the next few months. So what you can do in this business is take a down payment, and don't be a sucker. Take that punk ass $100 down, $100 a month bullshit. That shit don't work. Um, Take a good down payment, like 3,000, 4,000, 2,000, 2,500, and then make the monthly payments be something worth your while. 25 or $250, $300, whatever it is. And depending on what you want to do, you can break that up into 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. Like I have a property that I did that dumbass 100 down, 100 a month, but this fool's been paying for about 4 years now. Granted, with $400 coming in every month, I can't really do much with that 100 to deploy into the business besides paying for, you know, tools to get lists and things like that. But you do a 250, 300, it's not long before you have enough money to actually buy another property, especially when you have a sizable down payment. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put that in the comments below if you can understand that business model. And then right now, why don't you guys tell me what seems more appropriate for you personally? Getting the quick flip, right? And with the quick flip, you get less cash, but you get it faster and you get it up front right away. Or you go to slower the payment route where the total amount at the end of the day will be more, but it takes you a lot longer to get there. But you get the quote unquote passive income. And I put it in quotes because you still got to chase people down. You got to make sure they pay. Some buyers are better than others. Some are always on time. Other ones they forget. So you ain't just sitting around whistling Dixie. You actually got to, stay on top of your game, and you got to have the systems in place to make sure people are paying and keep track of how much they paid, and if you're doing interest payments, and making sure you're paying the property taxes every year. So again, it's not totally passive, but passive. But anyway, which one do you think will work better for you? All right, put that in the comments below. All right. Okay, I got a question. Didn't see it because I'm probably ahead of y'all. So you know, Chrissy Prescott asked me, "What are your thoughts on wholesaling lots if you're limited in capital?" Well, Chrissy, I appreciate that question because you just brought me to our next point. The third way you can do this business is to wholesale. And what that means, well, it's two ways. There's two things that you can do. One, wholesaling with a lot of land investors means that you're selling your property to another land investor with plenty of meat on the bone. So what I mean by that, let's say I buy a property for the sake of argument, $100. I sell to another land investor for like $200, $300, but they're able to in turn sell that property for like $1,200. So I made a little bit of ROI, I made a little bit of cash, I got some liquidity. Um, they were able to get a property at a good deal and sell it for retail price. So again, it's a win-win-win. Now, what are my thoughts on that wholesaling? Well, normally people who wholesale, they either number one, they can't sell, or number two, usually they can't sell, in my opinion. Now, obviously, there's an exception to every rule. Sometimes you just buy so much property and you got a big deal coming in that you need a lot more liquid cash coming back in, so you got to do what you can. But in my opinion, it's always easier to sell to the retail consumer than it is to the land investor. Now, I don't mean easier as in like, obviously a land investor will give you a lot less headache and they know the game, so they're really easy to deal with. Like, all right, here's the thing, let me do the transfer real quick, all right, boom, it's yours. But when you're selling to retail, you're going to get a lot more money. And here's the beautiful thing that you don't realize when you're selling to retail, even when you need that liquid cash. You're not just limited to selling that customer just one piece of property. Now that they know, like, and trust you because they gave you money and you gave them what they wanted, you can sell them other things that's going to help them with their land developing dreams or whatever they're going to use the land for, or you can sell them more property, and you can get referrals, and you can get testimonials. Doing that from a land investor, a fellow land investor, is possible for sure, but it doesn't hit the same. You see what I'm saying? So again, it's not the end of the world. Shit, money is money, right? Go get it. But normally, when people wholesale, it's because they can't sell the property themselves. And normally, that is a problem. Now, maybe the reason why they can't sell it themselves is because they overpaid for it and they're hoping to get some money back, and they're just waiting to find that person that will pay a lot more than anybody else. Maybe they bought property and they didn't do the proper due diligence that I outlined in my escape velocity strategy that will prevent you from buying properties that will be hard to sell unless you're getting them for free or very cheap. Um, but yeah, that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure others will agree. And as I said in the beginning, that's the beauty about this industry. We have different ways. There's many ways to skin a cat. So just because I believe that, don't mean it's gospel. Your mileage may vary. Um, but anyway, that's the first way. The other way to wholesale is what a lot of people do at homes, where people would actually go to a home that looks all beat up. They'll find out who the owner is. They'll like, hey, homeowner, your home is beat up, or you're trying to move and you're upside down in your mortgage, or there's something wrong. I will buy your property for $50,000. Your home for $50,000. Let's have this written agreement saying that. And if I can't, come up with the 50,000 in 90 days or so, then the contract is off. And just for you signing a contract, here's $50, here's $100 for your trouble. As long as you don't try to sell it to anybody else during that 90 days, you get this $100. You're like, all right, great. And then what I would do then is then find a buyer who would buy that contract from me for 60 grand. So if that buyer buys the contract from me, he will give me 60. I will give 50 to the homeowner, do the transfer that way, and I keep what's left in the middle, which is like 10 grand. That's how some people do like no money down deals. And that works in land as well. Personally, I don't think you need to do it because when you find distressed and you find motivated sellers, you can actually get property for free. Like, here's the property. You ain't got to give me shit. I just don't want it. It's a burden to me. I can't stand the thought of it. Take it off my hands. It owes a bunch of taxes. It doesn't matter if it owes taxes because once you sell it, you use the sale proceeds to pay off the taxes, or you just tell the hey, buyer, this thing owes has all these taxes on it. I'll give you a deal on it, but you got to take care of the taxes. Either way works, but guess what? You're getting paid with no money out of your pocket. And again, every time you have a buyer, you have that chance for a testimonial, you have that chance for referral, you have that chance for repeat business. Um, so yeah, wholesaling. And that was the third way a lot of people do make a lot of money here. Okay, let me look at the comments real quick. I'm doing it by myself. For a sale, I have done 2 payment split as well. Half now, half in a week. No D transfer until the second payment came through. Sometimes you can work with people. Absolutely, Terry. I do that often. In fact, I was actually working on that before I got on here. It's funny too. I love this story. I bought a property and there was a trailer that will actually split the property line. In fact, if I can find a fucking picture of it, I'll show you guys it now that I know how to share my screen. Boss moves, boss moves. Um, and I'm like, shit, man, what do I got to do? Do I got to get a survey done and play hardball with these people? But here's a tip. You will always catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And what that means is if you come off the gate playing hardball, you're not going to make a lot of deals or a lot of friends. So I sent a neighbor letter. A neighbor letter is another way to sell to people. Basically, you buy a property, the people who own property next to that property or in that area knows what the properties are like and probably likes them. That's why they own it. So having a chance for people to extend their property line is always enticing, especially if you're going to give them a deal. And especially if you're saying, look, I'm about to sell this property in a week or 2 or 3. I want to give you the chance of the right of first refusal before I sell it. But so if you want to extend your property line, let me know. Otherwise, somebody else is going to buy this property, and who knows what type of neighbor they're going to be. And that actually does a lot of time get people to actually, just play ball. Let me see if I can find the image of the property in question. Yep, here it is. So I'm gonna share my screen and show you guys what I'm talking about and how working with somebody actually worked out really well for me, like right now, and I'm in the process of this. Uh, share screen. So as you can see, this is a picture from the GIS, right? And the red outline is my property. However, the the mobile home is half on mine, half on theirs. Now, when I have people go check out this property for sale, they're like, "Oh my God, there's someone living on it, and does a trailer come with the property? What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh shit, I was told that this property or this trailer was moved. What's going on?" I send a neighbor letter. I sent it Priority Express, so that way people, when you get a Priority Express letter, you open that motherfucker. If you send a regular ass like one of these, looks like a bill, people may look at it, they may not. But when you send like a big Priority Express, they open that and they looked at it. I had a photo of this. I said, hey, check this out. This is my property. This is yours. I want to give you the right of first refusal. I see your trailer straddles the property line. I figure it's best to give you to sell the property to you because you would enjoy it more than anybody. They finally got it. Got a phone call today, like, yeah, I want to buy it, and they can't afford my asking price or up top. But I'm like, hey, we can make some payments. This is all good. Just give me a good down payment. Let's make this happen. They're like, all right, great. So now we're working on that deal. So it went from like, oh my God, is this a headache? Am I going to fight with somebody to flipping my perspective and acting like, hey, you know what? Just sell it to them. I ain't got to market to nobody. I ain't got to put it on Zillow. I ain't got to do none of that. I just fucking sell it to them. Good. Boom. Done. So I did have it marketed on Craigslist and people were looking, but they saw the trailer, they got spooked, and that was that. Cool, cool. But I appreciate the comments, everybody. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Starting out with a quick flip for sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So now those are the 3 common ways that you can actually sell property in this business, but there's some uncommon ways you can make money here too. All right. So the first one is you can actually do what people plan to do when they buy a property. Actually build it out and build it with whatever you want to build it with. A rental property, um, which is most times the case, right? Some kind of rental property or business storefront, and now you're using that property for your own purposes, right? That one's pretty self-explanatory, and it's what a lot of people hope will happen. Like, if they buy land, that one day this little forgotten area become a non-forgotten area, and now their land is worth more, and businesses and stuff will come and all that. And sure, that's possible, but I don't want to wait around for that. I want money today. I ain't trying to wait for 20 years. Now, there probably is some properties that I may keep for the long term, or I might keep for the long term one day. But at that point, I'm not thinking about that. The second way that is uncommon is actually leasing your property for like a billboard or a solar array or something like that. There's ways that you can lease your property to others, outside interests, and they will use your property for other things, a cell tower, right? So there's a lot of different ways that people can use that land that if you can't build on it, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can use it for other things like a parking lot. Hell, there was a property in Alabama I was going to buy that at one point it was you were able to build on it, but since it's too small for the current guidelines and rules of the building codes and all that, you can't put a house on it anymore. But there's a church down the street that wants to use that lot for a parking lot. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So you can do all types of stuff with it. Hell, you may be able to just put like a little. One guy actually called me for a lot. Hey, can I put a place where I can have car meets? I'm like, maybe, but it's not a big lot enough. I don't think you fit enough cars in your lot for that, but whatever. So there's always ways that you can lease property to other people that can work. Some people, if your lot is big enough, and depending on where you are, if you're more out in the wilderness or whatever, you can rent your property for campers and hikers and things like that. So now you have a private business going on with your private property. Same thing, renting it out for like people who are going to use their ATVs and dirt bikes or hunting and fishing, things like that. So you can have property and use it for things. You don't got to just build a house on it, especially if it's a bigger lot, bigger acreage, things like that. And then the final thing is leasing for like water rights, oil, things like that. I see this a lot in Texas where the water company will come, they'll drill under your property, they'll get the water underneath and use it to supply water to the area. Um, you don't make a ton of money doing that. It's like you get like $5 a year, at least in the areas I saw. But those opportunities do exist. So I gave you guys a few different ways to see how you can make money. But as you know, the flip is my favorite, and that's why I teach it in escape velocity strategy. Now, if you're interested in learning escape velocity strategy, you need to hit me up because the shit works. You don't got to take my word for it. You can ask the people I'm working with currently. I As soon as I explain how the business model works, people are like, sign me up. How do I do this? How can I get involved? And then not only do I share with them the strategy, but I give them the details and the tools that make things easy. Because I don't know about you, but I don't like to hustle. I'm lazy. Sometimes it's cool to hustle. It sounds good and all that. Gary Vee would be proud of me and shit like that. But most times I just wanna hang out, play video games, play some hoop, hang out with my family, whatever. I don't want to do all that. So with the systems in place, especially as you start getting moving, you spend less and less time working and more in time enjoying the process and enjoying your money. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and put pay dirt in the comments. I will hit you up personally. We can have a conversation and see what it's like for us to work together. Because in essence, we're going to be investing in land together. We're going to be working together on this. It's not just, hey, here's some videos, off you go. It's me and you in the trenches, getting some land, getting some dirt, making it possible. All right. So you have to make sure you get life details. Yeah. Oh yeah, Terry's talking about when she takes two or taking payments. Get a good large payment up front or down payment up front. Make sure you let them know the penalties for not paying. And one more thing, even though this is kind of off topic, when I do a payment structure like that, I normally don't allow people to be on the property until they pay it off, because I've actually had a felon do some illegal shit on the property, and I didn't get in trouble for it. But like, what if I did? I'm not taking it. Or what if someone gets hurt and gets sue happy and wants to sue me because they got hurt on my property? So I don't let people on it. And then unless you're bringing a professional to do like surveying or leveling or something like that, then that's fine. Because those are general improvements to the property. And if they stop paying, I keep the property and their money and I just sell it to somebody else. But anyways, I'm glad. Okay, Charles, I see you. I'm gonna hit you up later. All right. Hopefully you found this valuable and informative. If not, hey, let me know in the comments what other things you want me to talk about in this industry, because there's a lot that goes to it. So there's so much I can explain. I can make it as simple as you want. I can make it as complicated as you want. But at the end of the day, you're going to get me helping you find plots of land, invest in those plots of land, and making money. All right. So with that said, I'm looking forward to all the good things you're about to do. Share your wins. I'm about to share another one of mine. I made a small little payment, or a small little sale on property that took longer than I want to sell, but it is what it is. So other than that, hopefully you guys have a good one, and I'm going to see you guys later. Peace.